Alright, let's start up the parties. Start a party, start a party. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Apparently not everybody obligatory apologizes for mass pings on Discord. I'm getting yelled at by my boss. I need to open up the stream on my phone so I can see chat. That's right. That's right. We'll get this. Let's get down to business. So my mom will love me. Can I watch it, please? Jesus. Thank you. Okay, let's see what the stream is. Stream delay is. Holy shit, it's like 15 seconds. Well, on my end at least. There's no fours, but fours is my favorite. I should have enough time to play a quick play game, right? Maybe let people trickle in. I don't know. I don't even know if 6 o'clock is a good time, but I'm kind of just going to be throwing these out.
Traveling to Horizon Luna colony.
Let's see if this is going to be mid-game or not.
Prepare to attack.
Cool.
Select your hero.
I need water, because last time my fucking throat died halfway through. Where is the water? Oh shit, there's a ton of Coke. I don't think Coke is good for your throat, but it's not a ton of water. There's a ton of Coke. Ball? How dare you? Whatever.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
You ready for it?
We've been through a lot, escaping from a wound. You're right.
Put that shit in a commercial.
Much worse.
It's all about life's little pleasure.
I beatbox in my free time a lot. It's kind of like a casual thing for me to do. So if you hear me beatboxing randomly, I'm sorry. It's not my fault. If you hear me delayed in answering, I'm sorry. My phone is kind of like off to the side, so it's like a weird thing for me. Where you going, Paul? Where you going? Where you going? Are you looking at me? Don't look at me. I'm looking at you. Alright, well. Come over here, Doomfist. God damn it, Doomfist. Probably should. No, because I just landed, so I don't even know if I could have jumped.
Hi.
Playing back and defensive. That was a worthless bubble. 8 seconds I'll go, and hopefully nobody dies by then. Oh shit, no, Reinhardt. Don't do it to me. Where is he? Oh, there he is.
Let's coordinate our efforts.
Let's get down to business. To defeat oppression. What are you doing? Go away. Nobody likes you. Nobody likes you either. Alright. Oh. That's one down. Well, that was an interesting game. I guess it's VOD review time. I mean, I wasn't going to start for another 10 minutes, but if we start another quick play game, it's possible that it can last another 5 years.
Play of the game.
Oh, that's sweet of my teammates. Did I kick it out? No, it looks like it's still down there. Nice, bro.
Traveling to
Don't have to put in the code again. Don't have to search for that shit again.
Ready for battle.
Let's get down to business. Defeat.
Ready for battle.
I just rebound for no fucking reason. It's why does it keep resetting you here on this map? So, a lot of the times, as a preface, these VOD reviews that I'm doing, like I'm watching the games and I'm thinking thoughts, but like, thinking thoughts isn't always the same thing as saying the thoughts that you're thinking. So like, this is like step 2 of me kind of translating information in my brain that I see into language that you can understand. So like when we're in the scrims, I try to pick out the things that are easy for me to explain to you that you can do quick, and things that you can practice like mid scrim. And then the bigger things that I want to practice later, of course, we'll have to go over like the pathing, positioning, maybe the alt combos and stuff like that. We'll have to talk about later, and you can practice that. Like that's like things you have to actually practice by doing them. But these are just a form of me just like slowly translating. So I'm going to be saying some things right here, or most things I say in these VOD reviews is going to be correct. But if I say something weird or you're like, that doesn't make sense, talk to me again. This is why I'm saying there's going to be multiple iterations of how I'm showing you guys things and teaching you guys things. Because the way that I distill information is that it has to be kind of explained multiple times, because each time I'm retuning it and re-examining how I said it the first time to refine it so that you understand more of what I'm saying, right? If the first time I say jump less often and the second time I say jump less often because the enemies can headshot you, and then the fourth time, or I already lost it. The third time I say jump less often because the enemies can hit you easier because you're in a predictable path. Each one gives you a better understanding of why you should jump less often, but each of them is just telling you to jump less often. So I'm going to do it just so that it's like a matter of refinement and a matter of understanding, making sure everybody's on the same page. Because sometimes even you think you understand, but you don't really understand. I don't know why I wasn't letting the fucking thing play through. But yeah. I guess I have 5 more minutes before I'm supposed to really start, so. I got about an hour. Not even, I have about half an hour, 45 minutes. So we'll probably go over the first attack, which winds up leaving you guys with a minute's worth of time to push. And then we'll have to go over the other stages later. I imagine that Volskya is going to be the first map that we kind of go review. Usually I start with King's Row because King's Row is kind of like everybody's favorite map. But I might do Volskya just for the simple factor of we already kind of played this in a scrim. And we have things that we can go over. I don't want to get too stuck up on reviewing this scrim, I guess, a ton, so I might just go over one attack, one defense. Because I want to get more people, or more, well, yes, one, I want to get more people in on these scrims, right? So we're only viewing 6 people right now, but there's a bunch more people who kind of want to get their play looked at and stuff like that. But also we want to see different maps, and we want to see different plays and strategy and find all the errors we can. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And Volskya is only going to show so many errors. Okay, Coke isn't the right thing to drink. I really should just get water. Holy shit. Bro, don't drink Coke to fucking ease your throat. Wait, is this the same? Yeah. Okay, right? Because then, yeah, okay, Graxton's comes out high noon, pick one. Okay, got it.
Complete.
Let's get down to business. And like I said, don't forget, I'm in that open party. If you don't want to be hearing your questions answered delayed, or maybe you just want a friend. Some of us just want friends. Some of them get that, like the cameramen in Overwatch League get those really clean. It's so nice sometimes to see those clean angles. Hi, Nocturnal, how's it going? I see you followed me in the chat, that's why I'm saying hi specifically to you.
Ready for battle.
Why, I'm ready, you're alright. So, I don't remember too much on the attack. The main reason that I had picked up this map to review first is because on the defense I saw those very obvious kind of like positioning errors that I wanted to work through. Defense is kind of easier to go through sometimes because it's very static. Like what you're going to do is going to be fairly consistent, and it's going to vary very little based off of what the enemies will do. Like obviously Widow or Bastion will change how your composition plays, but like most times whether they're running like a Death Ball or a Hanzo or like fucking a Genji or something like that, your defense is going to stay fairly standard. So defense is always, I feel like, a good place to start, especially because good teams are usually predicated on defense. Defense allows your offense to breathe and have a lot less stress. And it's a lot easier to stall in this game than it is to attack. I mean, just from a very fundamental level, like you can kind of have theoretical arguments about Overwatch and stuff like that. I say that all the time, but from my understanding of the game, it's a lot easier to defend, because if you put your pinky toe on the point, then there could be 6 attackers in front of you, but they're still not winning the game yet. So we're going to kind of just pick apart some things on the offense that I see. But like I said, this is just going to kind of be a distilling of, or a initial kind of introduction of my thoughts, and I'll distill that down or refine that and put it in a package. And I think it's going to be on Mondays that I'm going to do like that. I'm going to put that refined package, where we'll go through maps and stuff like that, and I'll explain things, and whoever can be there, and whoever can't be there, there'll be a stream and the VOD will be saved. So let's go on this. I'll kind of repeat some of the things that I said last time, because I do remember that we got a few into this. That shield should be up. Mercy Booty, not a main tank player, understandable. That shield should be up though for any main tank players who are here, anybody who wants to know main tank. Don't peek it through the door, but it should be up. You shouldn't have to wait his Zarya bubble, because the Zarya is worried about the Rhine shield not being up. Okay, so ideally the pathing on this map is going to be to go through Chapel. I mean, we could rename this, but I'm going to call it Chapel right now. Come out of this door and then see if the defense is holding left or right. Normally the defense will be holding left or to the right, so you'll go to their left or to your left. Anyway, yeah, so you'll come out of that door and you'll see. The reason that you don't normally go over here is because normally people are holding on to the right-hand side, and it doesn't give you DPS any real line of sight. Also, if they're holding on the left-hand side, it means you have to cross. Most teams wind up going to the right-hand side for 2 main reasons. One, because if you go to the left-hand side, it's very choky. There's not a lot of space over here, so it means you can get funneled and bottleneck, and you're coming in between 3 high grounds technically if you count this forklift as a high grounds. But let's say if there's an Ana chilling up here, you have to worry about her antis and her sleeps. Let's say if there's a Hanzo up here, you have to worry about his headshots and his Stormbow, and it kind of leaves you in a little bit of a funnel. So you normally would want to try to push right. Left, that doesn't mean left is never a good option. There will be times where left just throws your opponents off, or left happens to be more open than right. Things can happen. But right offers you 2 different distinct routes. You could take this wide berth route right here, and I'm calling it a wide berth route because it has a lot of space in this middle section, which means you can kind of like not get funneled as much. There's also a wall behind you, which is pretty nice. If you go the other way, you're going to be basically splitting the defender spawn, which isn't bad, because then if you get a pick, like you could send your tracer back without the tracer having to be split from the team necessarily. Like there won't be anybody in between your tracer and your team. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I realize that I maybe should slow down the tempo a little bit. Sometimes I tend to like start rapid fire spitting out information, and it's not always conducive to the learning experience. But there's a larger amount of space here, so when there are people on the high ground over to the side, sure, Doomfist can drop down and punch you into a wall or something like that, but that's more likely on the other side because it's a little bit more congested. If the Doomfist drops down and punches you here, you are probably going to stop about here or so, unless it's a full charge punch. Like, you're going to stop in this, like, light post area. And if he full charges a punch, then you should be able to punish him because that full charge puts him in a locked animation. That's kind of like an indicator of a go. Yeah, the game can sometimes seem like you just want to hit these crazy shots, but if you really slow down and think about the types of shots that pros are hitting a lot of times, they're very easy shots. The pros have the ability to hit impeccable shots, but they consistently go for the easy ones. And some of that comes down to understanding things like Doomfist kind of like gets into specific animation when he's charging up his punch. So in lower elos where Doomfist charge up their punch to max a lot, a higher player would know, just wait for him to charge up his punch and then hit him with the headshot as soon as he's charging up his punch. Don't try to hit him before, or hit him after, or hit him in the middle of him punching towards you. Just wait for it. Be patient, you know? It also comes down to sometimes like, let's say if, let's see if we could get somebody who's, okay, so Graxons is kind of playing this corner right here and he's peeking in and out. Let's say if he wanted to go around this corner, Graxon's reticle should always stay on the corner. Like, it should stay just on the outside of the corner. If we consider, like, the left side of where the reticle is, the outside of that corner, because that's where the enemies are going to be. So if somebody, you're going to basically leave your reticle in a spot that somebody can walk into it rather than having to make, like, some sort of flick or track their motion or something like that. But anyway, back onto the offensive pathing. So generally, you don't want to, I mean, in the first place, you don't want to split like this out of spawn, right? This is a bad idea. And I was talking about this last time, but through a very sophisticated maneuver, you could basically, the enemy team could basically split your supports off and chase them. And Lucio probably still has speed boost. Let's make sure of that. Lucio still has speed boost, so he should be able to get a good disengage in if they tried to do something like that, but it definitely still puts them as risk and requires response time. And let's just say if the Lucio doesn't have a response time and all 6 enemies flood out all at once and it's all of a sudden like the Rhine, enemy Rhine, comes across here, shields, and holds the shield in front of this Reinhardt. All the Reinhardt could do is charge into the enemy Rhine, or all Mercy can do is charge into the enemy Rhine, and the enemy Rhine can just counterpin so that they're both laying on the ground and nobody can push past the Reinhardt or the enemy Reinhardt. And that leaves your supports vulnerable to the rest of the team flooding out really quick, grabbing the 2 of them, and then cleaning up the team fight. So you don't want to split too often because there are small maneuvers like that can be done. And they're quite sophisticated and most people aren't going to punish you. Like, this team isn't going to punish you for that right away, but it does definitely cause a bit of disorder in case anybody goes into the back line, or if the enemy team is extra aggressive or something like that. Having your supports, your DPS, and your tanks kind of split. Like, if you could kind of draw circles around the pairs, and then if you were to like cut lines in between the circles and put enemies there, they would be in trouble, right? Because there would be like no real way for somebody to help them if there was a tank in between either 2 of these. God damn it, I need to change the fucking rewind button. But you kind of want to be grouped together because it makes it so that everybody, like, you want to know where everybody's going to be. You want everybody to be protectable and safe as much as possible. Unfortunately, that Ash didn't die. So yeah, this is small things. I'll probably comment on it again in the future, I'm sure, and give more apt explanations as you actually go against teams that punish things like this. But yeah, you want to be coming from the inside of the chapel, coming across, going to the right. The right will offer you this open space where you could pressure underneath down here. And as long as your team is in between the enemy team and the access to this high ground, you should be good. They could come across the top. But that's really their only way, and you'll see them coming across the top. That's something you're going to want to look out for if you're doing this, because you can shut that down. Normally, the entire team isn't going to come across the top. So let's say in this instance, once you came across here, somebody went across the top, like the Ana rotated in order to get a nade. Graxons could climb up here, have the high ground advantage, and clear anybody who wants to bother the team. So that's kind of one of the luxuries of the DPS, is they don't really hold any technical responsibilities in a way. It's their job to put pressure onto the enemy team, just like it's the tank's job to defend the team and protect the team, and it's the healer's job to offer healing and support in various forms. But the DPS's job can be done from various different positionings, and it could have duality in it, right? It's very hard for the tanks to protect someone and kill things at the same time. There are situations where swinging your hammer is a form of protecting someone, or charging into the enemy is a form of protecting someone, but it's sometimes taking space and tanking literally requires you to not do damage, to just hold your shield or like walk forward or something like that. So that's why it's a little bit harder for main tank to kind of do these things. Also, main tank doesn't have usually as much mobility. They're the center of the fight, so you generally want the main tank to be in a spot that can be anchored. So you wouldn't necessarily split your main tank from the team so that they could clear a high ground on their own, because it's not feasible for the main tank to anchor on their own. It's feasible for the main tank to anchor with their team support behind them in a space like this where people can be safe behind them or something like that. If your team was to go up here, that would be fine, and that's the second advantage of this route, which I'm eventually gonna fucking get to. I mean, Jesus Christ. But the team has basically two routes, right? This wide open berthy area over here that they can kind of push into the point, and if anybody comes, like, pressures them from the side, they at least have space to retreat back to this garage space over here, or they could just go back towards spawn, either one. But let's say they successfully push, they could go to point, or they can go to the high ground. You'll see New York do this a lot. You'll see me reference New York a lot because New York is my team, so I watch them the most. So Jonak is a great Zen, right? So you want to leverage his ability to deal damage as much as possible. That means getting him the best sightlines and the best positioning. This is a spot that not every DPS can get to. Sure, the Doomfist could get to it, and the Ashe could theoretically get to it. But you want to get your hard hitters, your sharpshooters, your people who are doing the damage into spots where they have the ability to break line of sight. Like high ground, you can break line of sight by backing up and stuff like that, and we can go over the more technical aspects of high ground advantage and how to use angles and stuff like that. If any of, god fucking damn it, I keep rewinding, if any of you have trouble with that stuff in the future, if you just maybe want to know if there's anything I can add to your knowledge, you know, we could just go through it to see if I say anything new for you guys, you know. So just ask if you need that information. It's not a problem at all. I'm gonna check my messages really quick. Okay, so yes. I let the thing go a little bit too far, so I'm actually gonna have to rewind again this time. Sorry about that. We'll probably get cut in post, you know? So usually going to the right is a little bit better. Come out of spawn through chapel is a little bit safer. It doesn't let you get pooped. It lets you have line of sight for your DPS as you cross. It also lets you get good scouting information. We'll go over scouting later. I want you to get pathing and such correct first. And that doesn't mean I want you to perfect it first, but I want you to at least seemingly understand some of the core principles, because scouting is going to play a huge role in your pathing. Because if you scout that there's a Reaper hiding over here, or a Junkrat or a May or something ready to wall over here, then that changes how you want to approach this choke, and that's a big part of it, right? Like if you're going to walk into the choke because you were like, this is the way we go, this is optimal pathing, do bot brain, then you're going to get punished against certain teams. There's a lot of fluidity and flexibility in Overwatch, and you have to be prepared for all of it. So there's going to be a lot of stages to learning, and they're all going to complement each other. So if you learn the first stage of something and you're like, this doesn't work, don't give up on it, because I can promise you I probably have a second or third step that goes along with it that makes it that much better, and each part will exponentially improve the previous one. So I'm going to unbind my left trigger. Oh my god. Let's see how you just attacked now. I'm going to... Oh.
5, 4,
I need help, man.
3,
Like,
2, 1.
psychological help.
Defend objective A.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about when I was saying during the scrims to do things cohesively and with the joint push. So I'm gonna focus on the tanks again. Tank is a little bit more of my specialty, and I really think that the game revolves around tanks for the most part, because they're a little bit of an overpowered class, and everybody has to base their positioning and their abilities around what the tanks do. So if the tanks are making very, very obvious mistakes or like debilitating ones, then the rest of the team's mistakes, I feel like, are less impactful because the tank is the most important role. But I will be looking at everybody. Don't worry. You're not gonna get neglected. I see you out in Narnia, Boopery. Don't worry. So what I was talking about when I was saying push as a cohesive unit was mainly about using tanking abilities, but it's also a little bit about using DPS abilities. And I'll say this in twofold. It'll probably sound like 20-fold, but I promise it's 2 sections. It's gonna be the DPS section and then or the tank section and then the DPS section. So when it comes to the tanks, right? There's 2 things that you want to be trying to do as Reinhardt. And Mercy, again, I know is not a main tank player, but I'm going to be using this as an example so that all other main tank players that we either pick up or might be watching this VOD, or people who might have to fill in, or people who want to just know what's going on. The main tank has a shield, and it's a big fat fucking shield. And the main tank, by the main tank I mean Reinhardt. Reinhardt has a big fucking shield. And the big ass shield allows him to take a large brunt of damage. Every main tank is going to work slightly differently because their core abilities each highlight different aspects of the game. Winston's bubble is good for cutting off LOS and for healing, so that it forces healers to reposition or the person in the bubble to die. Orissa's shield is good for nothing right now, mainly because it's paper thin, but it's mainly good for enabling large range chunk damage to kind of sit in their spot. Like Bastion is good at being stationary and chunking out damage from a decent range, from mid to long range, so it's good for that. Ryan's shield is exceptionally good at taking a brunt of damage and controlling wide areas, because it's like the longest shield, I think, besides Winston's. And it has the most health just straight out. So, right, the 2 things you want to be aware of as Reinhardt is or the biggest thing you want to be aware of as Reinhardt is your shield health, but the other thing is your ultimate charge and like the corners you're near. So, as Reinhardt, yes, holding your shield up is great, but you're basically playing like a bot like this, because what you're saying is, I'm not going to do anything. Either my DPS hit the shots and kill, or nothing will happen. You're not creating any sort of advantage here, right? So generally what you want to do, cut and dry into a fight, is you want to have your Zarya bubble you first, like you're going to turn the corner without your shield up, and you're just going to go. Zarya's going to bubble you, you're going to get in there and you're going to swing. The Zarya is going to keep in pace with you, because once the bubble on you dies, Zarya wants to bubble herself and step in you or in front of you, because that will stop any form of damage coming to you, because the bubble is technically around both of your hitboxes. You can walk in and out of your allies as Zarya. So that's going to be a big part of using your bubbles to maximize effectiveness of protection, right? So you're going to bubble your Rein. You're not even going to put up your shield. Rein's going to, let's say if you were coming from this side, Rein's going to get bubbled, come around, not even hold up shield, close the distance as much as can, maybe swing, maybe probably throw a fire strike. You really want to queue up that fire strike before you turn the corner, so the fire strike comes out instantly, because you know they're going to be here. This is like, everybody knows that somebody's going to be here at this elo, right? So you want to take advantage of that. Queue up that fire strike before. We'll learn about the tendencies of other elos later. But you're going to come around, you're going to fire strike, you're gonna move forward while swinging, not slow yourself down by flickering your shield. You're gonna use to maximize the use of the bubbles, right? And you're gonna take this space, because there's no enemies in it. There's no reason you can't take this space. There's nobody above it pressuring you out of it, and there's nobody in it. The worst thing that can happen is that you're gonna come here and they're just gonna, like, the Doomfist might punch you into the wall, but you can counterpin that. The enemy Reinhardt might pin you into the wall, but you can counterpin that. You'll also have bubbles to help protect you. You'll have your team flooding behind you, putting pressure, right? Because even if you push in here, right, and let's say you, as the Reinhardt, both bubbles break, the Doomfist and the Rein both use their abilities on you, so you can only counterpin one, right? The damage from the DPS coming in behind you, from you forcing the Reinhardt to shield, drop his shield and charge, or you forcing the Doomfist to step in front of his Reinhardt, allows the DPS to get picks. That's forcing advantages. Right now, you're not even forcing the Reinhardt to drop his shield. But once you get into this space, you're saying you're gonna hit me, or like somebody's gonna die. Something's gonna happen. You're gonna have to do something to dislodge me, right? So you can use this. You can basically move as close to people as their splash abilities allow. And by that I mean like if you move up, like let's say if this Reinhardt was a McCree and you move right up to him and the McCree flashes above your shield, that's a no. So if there's a McCree, you want to obviously try to stay out of that range of effectiveness for his flashbang, because then you might get hit with 20,000 damage and die instantly. If you move up and there's a Junkrat or something maybe hitting nades off the wall, you might not want to be there because that zone is controlled by the Junkrat nades. If you move up and there's not too many instances of not being able to push, just like you can fucking nose nuzzle your shield against the other Rhines, and basically that's usually the comfort range, is you want to nose nuzzle the other Ryan. You want to just like get up to him and Eskimo kiss the fuck out of him like you're all romantic and in love, and then you want to hit him with your big fat hammer and display dominance. It's like your normal kinky relationship. So start from the beginning, right? Because I explained a lot of haphazardly, and like I said, for anybody who might have just joined because I saw the view count go up a little bit, these VOD reviews are me just doing a first review and distilling my thoughts, or letting my thoughts out. I will distill this information into a more understandable package, and it should be every Monday. I'm pretty sure that I'll be doing it at a specific time. So if you're looking at this VOD and you're like, what the fuck is he talking about? Don't worry about it too much. Try to understand what you can. Ask questions if you have them. But I will be redoing this in a more cohesive and distilled format later on. I'm kind of just letting you guys be part of the process as I go through this this information and see what you guys are doing. So in initial engages, you want to use all of your abilities together cohesively. So we're still on the tanks. We haven't moved on to the DPS yet. So you're going to come around this corner with your Zarya. Zarya's going to bubble you first. She's going to stay inside of you so that the bubble gets maximum value. You're going to close as much distance. Let's say friendly goes down. She's going to pop personal while sitting inside you, so she keeps blocking as much damage as possible. You're going to keep closing distance. The entire time you move forward as Reinhardt, you want to be swinging. Zarya's going to be throwing out grenades and beaming people down. You want to be throwing fire strikes off cooldown. Like I said, you want to queue up the first fire strike before you even, like right here, you want to hit the fire strike button, because then as you come around this corner, it's going to fly out and hit them all of a sudden, and it'll catch people off guard more often than not. Graxons, take an hour to review a 5-minute round. listen, you. I don't need the sass, man. There's a lot of things here, okay? So 2 bubbles, go through, take the space, right? As soon as the bubbles go down, which as Reinhardt, you should be seeing the Zarya your friendly go down, you should maybe make a 3 count. Because bubble will usually only stay up for about 3 seconds. If bubble pops before 3 seconds, if the enemies break bubble before 3 seconds, they have excessive amounts of damage, and you need to basically move from cover to cover, because they're just going to roll your shield. So do a 3 count after friendly dies, and this takes some practice. I know I'm telling you a lot of stuff, a lot of things that you have to get on your kind of like plate and such, but friendly's gonna break, you're gonna do a 3 count, you're gonna hard shield. And after you hard shield in this position, you're gonna listen for sound cues of Ryan charging, and you're gonna listen for sound cues of Doomfist punch. And if Doomfist punch you think it's coming towards you, you're gonna have to try to counterpin that, because getting hit into the wall is gonna be massive damage. It's gonna take you out of your armor for Reinhardt. And the armor for Reinhardt is huge because it negates a bunch of different types of damage. Doomfist shotgun, it negates Ash fire tick, it's gonna negate low Zarya damage, I'm pretty sure. It's gonna negate tracer bullets, Reaper pellets, Diva pellets, etc, etc. So staying in armor is very important for Reinhardt. You basically want to tempo your aggression around being in armor or out of armor. So Zarya bubble goes down, you hard shield, Zarya is here. Now that's the main push, right? Because you've now cleared choke as the tanks, which means the DPS, as you push forward, can start to take various positioning on the other side of the choke. You're going to kind of flood in. The team should move like a fluid gelatin, stuck together, but flexible enough to move into various forms of containers, right? It's a really odd analogy, I'm sure, but trust me, it works. Don't think too hard. It works. I promise. Okay, so now the tanks have pushed with cohesion, right? You're not gonna back up immediately. You want to hold that shield for as much as possible. Hey, I have a friend now. That's crazy. I'm gonna add them back as a friend. Submit. Yes. Friendship. Anyway, so Now we go into the DPS. The DPS, as soon as this is going to come out, it's going to be very straightforward. It's going to be crazy to think about. But as soon as the tanks push into the enemy team, you're going to be looking for these small advantages created by the pressure and speed of the push, right? It's going to be like hot water appearing all of a sudden. It creates a lot of steam, and in an enclosed space, it can create small explosions because of the pressure and the pressure change all of a sudden, right? So as a DPS, let's say if I'm playing Hanzo, or even if you're playing Tracer and you're already in the back line, right? As soon as the tanks push in, you have to be ready to collapse on that. Because like I said before, the Rhine's going to drop his shield to try to pin. The Doomfist is going to try to punch the Rhine back. The Ashe is going to panic and try to throw in dynamite and all the abilities. And that panic is going to cause misplays. It's going to take attention. The tanks are going to draw a lot of attention and aggression to them. And as the DPS, you're going to use that time to throw in all of your damage abilities. Hanzo Stormbow, you're going to blink towards the fight and try to get much damage into the tanks or into a DPS that's easy to kill, etc, etc, etc. And supports, you're going to basically just keeping everybody up. You're going to be looking for advantages as well. You want to, as Lucio, speed, because that initial portion where Reinhardt is swinging forward and has bubble on him, if you can get the Reinhardt to cover more distance in that time, that's more value for the tanking abilities. Because tanking abilities are basically can be measured as distance over time for the tanking abilities. So if Zarya bubble is up for 4 seconds and she only covers 5 meters, that's less value than a Zarya bubble being up for 4 seconds and covering 10 meters. Now, of course, the distance has to be effective distance, right? If the Reinhardt walks into the team and half the team, like he walks just past half the team, if Mercy just walked right here and the fucking Reinhardt was still behind him, that's not valuable distance for the rest of your team. But, I mean, I guess it's distance. It holds some sort of claim, I guess. So Lucio's going to speed to get the team to have maximum value. Ana, you could be looking for sleeps or antis. In the way that the DPS would be throwing out abilities, you're looking for that Reinhardt to drop a shield. You can be the turning point, right? Zarya bubble may stop one of the abilities in terms of Doomfist punch or Rein charge, but Ana can really be the second thing that saves the Reinhardt, as long as you're aware of the things that can happen, and which is why you kind of have to have a full scope and a full understanding of the game, because if you know that the Reinhardt wants to pin there, you could sleep it. You have to be aware of what your enemies want so that you can deny it. I see a lot of messages on my phone. Alright, none of them are from you guys, so I'm just going to continue for now. So that's what I really mean by pushing cohesively, is that you want to use your abilities in a way that allows you to push fast and in a bundle. Spreading your abilities out like that means that you're just putting wear and you're not getting as much value as you can. Zarya, when she pops both of her bubbles and they both get broken, would have been on 80 charge by now. And Vel, you have both abilities on cooldown and you have 0%. And that's because your Rhine and you didn't push with tempoed aggression, because you didn't know when to push with tempo aggression. What are you waiting for here? You're turning the corner, you should just go. There's nothing to hide from or wait from. This isn't what scouting looks like if you're trying to scout. Scouting is done by a mobile character who can slip in and out quickly and inform. I fast forwarded this time. Who could slip in and out quickly and not lose value or resources when they're trying to gain that information. So you should just be coming around this corner and being ready to go, because it should already be scouted, or you should understand that if you're not going to scout, then this isn't the way you do it and you should just go anyway, you know? Do your scouting while getting ult charge, while getting value, and while using your resources properly. You should be on 80 charges as Zarya, and your Reinhardt should be in there, because past this, your Rein is gonna hold. You're gonna hold shield. You're gonna charge in. Charges. Mercy, you're not a Reinhardt, but this is a bad charge. Charge. It should be a short distance ability at best. It is used to negate other CC abilities like Pin or Doomfist Punch, or it is used to punish people who are out of position. It is not exactly used for dealing damage. It's a great damage dealing ability, but that's what you have DPS for. Your hammer does 75 damage, your fire strike does 100. That should be more than enough damage as a Reinhardt to get through it. So I'm not going to go too into technical detail about the charge and stuff like that. But if you think of a team, okay, so a lot of times when I'm looking at teams, I think of everybody has a little bubble of water. So you see how everybody has a little circle icon with their picture on it? Imagine if they had a bubble that extended to just outside of their hitbox. Like, you saw how Ryan's hammer is stretched out there? Just draw a circle in your mind around Reinhardt. If you're not a visual learner, this may be a little bit difficult. Might be not be your forte, but just do your best. So imagine that every ally and enemy has this this bubble around them. So this bubble is going to be made out of water. Water has the tendency to stick to water. It is a polar molecule, which means it is either attracted or not attracted to it to itself. And water is actually very attracted to itself. It will stick to itself almost like a magnet. So if you imagine that every person close enough to their team is stuck to them like a small, non-powerful magnet, then you can imagine that any two people who are close enough, you can imagine it as influence, right? The water's influence. Sorry again. But the influence affects one another when you're close enough. It's a by proxy type thing. Certain characters like Ana can have influence at range, but her best influence sometimes can come at close range where the shots are a little bit easier to hit, which isn't entirely true. Let me not say things that could be misleading. But especially for characters like Lucio, Reinhardt, Zarya, where your influence comes at a very close range, the Ryan and the Zarya being close to each other means that they influence each other a lot, right? So the Zarya can deal a lot of damage to the same people that the Ryan is dealing damage to, which are people within a certain cone of influence, that little bubble that I was painting a picture of before. So when you charge into the enemy team, their influence is surrounding you. You're encapsulated in their team. They decide whether you get out or not. They decide where you go within that sphere of influence because they have more power than you. There's more water droplets of them than you. But your team now is split, right? There's influence between you and your team. Side note, something you can do as a tank player is body block this healing. So let's say if the Ana was going to try to heal up the Reinhardt, and you know the team is behind you, you could just stand in between the Reinhardt or Mercy. Like if I'm user, I could just stand in between Mercy and the rest of the team to body block any healing that might come through. It's kind of tricky. It requires a lot of awareness. But that influence basically allows and determines whether or not what you can do and how powerful everybody's like impact on one another is. I mean, impact is really just another fancy word for influence, so I don't really know what I'm trying to say differently there, but basically proxy is important and diving into the enemy team is bad because it separates you from your team. I think that's a much simpler way to say it. Maybe that water analogy is just a bad one, you know? Takes an hour to review 5 minutes. Fuck you. It's an important 5 minutes. Actually, we haven't even gotten into 5 minutes. It's already been a half an hour. I'm already supposed to go make rice. Oh well. Okay, so this is a similar thing to offense that I was saying before. Right side is a little bit better, and we'll kind of like, I guess, say that right side is maybe like step 1 pathing. There's going to be a lot of different options, but I want you guys to like maybe learn one main pathing before you start doing a bunch of different ones. But the fight just gets kind of messy because everybody just splits all over the place where they think they belong best. So Graxens goes right side because he gets a wide angle. Ana runs into the mega room because that's where Ana's feel safe. Reinhardt and Zarya sit on point because that's their job. Lucio, Budget Genji is basically just going around. Tracer is blinking in and out of short sight lines and cover so that she can kind of like stay as safe as possible. But everybody is just in a space that benefits them best and not really aware of like where their team is going to be. So we'll probably start doing right side when we go Volskya, just to get in practice of learning where everybody is. So after we go through Volskya, maybe we'll do it like once or twice or something like that, and we'll make sure that we know what the route is, where everybody wants to be. We'll talk about it, like, oh, I think we should go here, I think we should do this slightly differently. What if they have a ball and the ball dives top, what should we do, etc., etc. After we go through all that stuff, then we'll talk about, okay, what if you go Volskya left? What if you TP Volskya top? What if you go Volskya coast? What if you go Volskya catwalk or something like that? But this is just kind of like a haphazard and messy fight. And I want to say that you don't take this, but you should take this. So I'm scared to say that. There's like 3 low people on point. So there's no reason you shouldn't win this, but I don't remember at this point. Doom gets 1. Doom gets dead. Ana's dead. Sorry, it's too low. There's no way. Okay, cool. So you guys take first pretty easily. It's looking good. You're feeling the mantra. You're feeling the mojo. Right. I remember now. For the rest of this map, you guys throw your damage into their damage, and your shield into their shield, and your healing into their healing. And nothing happens because they have more of all of it, or some of it, or half of it. I don't really know. It doesn't matter which they have more of, but they have more of it, and you weren't able to do anything for a long time, right? Okay, so pathing on second point, we're going to, again, start with just a very specific pathing. You're going to want to come one way or another to this right side, and you're going to want to take control of this right side mega. Now, this includes making sure that somebody clears the high ground. In this case, it could be the Lucio or the Hanzo, because both of them have the ability to get up there. If the Tracer, if Boopery, if you wanted to, you could take the elevator up and be the one to help clear high ground. You can coordinate this by, the Hanzo can kind of like, you come around and you wait, and Tracer's like, all right, I'm on elevator, 3, 2, 1, and then you just go up top. And at the same time, and if somebody's up there, you both focus the same target at the same time, and they should die without the possibility of escaping, because that's 2 people with double the chance of killing them. So you're gonna come right side, right, clear the high ground through whatever means you see fit, and if we see problems with that later, we'll talk about it. And you're gonna notch yourself here. What this allows you to do is it allows you to focus on people on the left half a point. It cuts off line of sight on the people on the right half a point. Now, the benefit of this as well is, let's say the supports are the only one on the right side of the point, or the support that you want is on the right side of the point. The team as a whole can make a quick wraparound, because this is a very short distance between that right hand path that we're looking at right now and the left hand gap that we said is a good place to hold. So not everybody will be holding there. In this case, you see that the Ana is on top, and in this situation now you have ability to see everybody on the left side of the map, or the left side of the point, and it allows you to retreat option to the mega, some cover, and some other options in terms of just like, you can step forward into here, and this is a piece of cover, as long as your DPS can put pressure in this area, and as long as you can force people to not want to be here, because from here there's nowhere for the enemies to retreat, right? They have to either move forward into mega, which splits them from their team, or they have to move back here, which will split them from their team. But if it doesn't split them from the team, let's say if the whole team is holding right side, you remember how we talked about yesterday with split spawning, it puts them at a long-term disadvantage. And it still comes down to a lot of technical things, like you guys have to have a Reinhardt who shields forward properly, and then bubbles have to go out at the right time, and your aggression has to be correct, and the DPS has to come out at the right time. But until I see you do pathing the correct way, I can't critique any of that stuff, because everything's so a mess. So I don't want to say how everything is supposed to exactly go, because we have to at least get the fundamentals of like, oh, this is where we should be, and then we can talk about how do you execute from that positioning, and then we'll talk about more positioning, and then we'll add stuff on, etc., like scouting and such, right? So right side, you're going to poke from here, and then from here, I'm going to kind of say that it's going to be a little bit free flow, because as you take the point, you kind of want to take it as a percentage-based thing. As the tank, you want to kind of like put your foot on point a little bit. Oh, I hit the left trigger. Okay, so as the main tank, or as the tanks in general, you want to put foot on the point, because putting your foot on the point puts pressure on the enemy team. Every time they step off the point, let's say, right, they're rotating in and out, you're able to stay there and stay alive. Every time they step off the point, you get a small percentage of all charge. So basically, you're forcing the enemy tanks to stay on point, or you're forcing the enemy in general to stay on point or lose percentage. There's been a lot of games, I'm sure, that you guys have had where you're just like on point and you're in the middle of a fight, but they just C9. Because it takes mental energy and attention to make sure that somebody's on the point at all times. And when you're trying to focus on managing your shield, keeping your bubbles up and stuff like that, as well as keeping track of your allies, it can be very difficult to make sure that there's point pressure all the time. So that's why we're trying to make some of those things that can become like natural, like things that you just know before the game even starts, as natural as possible, because if you don't have to think about where your supports are, then you have more time to think about point pressure and stuff like that, you know? So we're just going to kind of move some of those active thoughts into like regressive, or not regressive, Jesus, please no, into like recessive thoughts. I think that's the word I want. Thoughts that are just natural, that you don't really have to try too hard to access, or that you don't even really need to think about. You just know it instinctually. So You can put pressure on point once you come to the right side. You're gonna kind of want to take this in like a slow wave. If you think about this as like coloring in shades, right? This box right here. So you're going to want to move from the bottom right hand corner of the box and push upward, mainly to get the people to get the enemies up. Now you're going to want to try to see where they want to go, and you're going to want to corral them all together. So you're going to want to corral them towards the tanks. So DPS, you're going to want to shoot at people who are outside the shield, to the left and to the right, because what's that's going to do is that's going to pressure them to go to their tanks or to split from their tanks. It's going to be one or the other. So as you push forward, the enemy should push back, but that's also a matter of you having better DPS technically, better damage outputs, better compositions and such, and better tanking. So the reason that you're going to want to go this right side over here instead of going down main is because this distance requires resources to cross. As Reinhardt, when you push forward, it's going to require shield health to push forward because the DPS are going to keep pushing you. You can usually get to here pretty free because you can get here before they scout you most of the time, because you can, like, you don't have to peek. You should not be peeking, by the way. You should be cohesive pushing on defense because peeking can be dangerous. We talked about it a little bit on the defense review. I'm not exactly sure when or where that will go up. I kind of just like gave it out. Like I was just like, here, you take care of it. I didn't want to deal with it. I'm sorry, I'm lazy. But if you're peeking, then you're giving them indications of stuff. Like if you're peeking a lot as Hanzo or something like that, and then all of a sudden you disappear. Me as a tank or a DPS player, any player really, I know like, oh, where the fuck did that Hanzo go? They must be doing something. And then I have to think about what they're doing, what they could be doing. Where are they going left? Are they going right? Because they're not main. So check both. If I check right and I see them right maybe a little bit early, that might save my team fight. So you shouldn't be peeking because it can be indicators to stuff to the enemy team. If you are peeking, you want to do it like with a little bit of a Rhine shield or something like that to protect you, because you don't want to give the enemies chances, yada yada yada. So you go right to conserve resources, etc, etc. This will get you very close to point, and then we can worry about more semantics later. But let's see what you actually do. So I'm just gonna watch from this perspective the entire time. Let's see how far you guys get for most of it. Hopefully I don't hit the triggers. So you got a little bit of a distance. I wish I had a little marker where I could mark how far you got. Unfortunate. Oh, you made it all the way to point technically. Okay. So you dove too deep, split the team. Reinhardt instantly dies. Reinhardt makes it so the defense kind of collapses. I'm gonna go up a little bit more so we could see more. There we go. That's better. So defense kind of collapses on the Reinhardt because he splits himself from the team. And everybody kind of crumbles after that because nobody knows how to resort to cover usage and stick together. So Zarya bubbles kind of get limited access of body blocking and damage because the Zarya bubble's only protecting the Zarya, not necessarily anybody behind them. Has anybody seen the world? Oh, getting too fast again. Slow it down. Okay. Has anybody seen the World Cup clip? There we go. Where South Korea blocks an Earth Shatter for like 4 people with a single Zarya bubble or a Brig Shield or some shit like that. If you haven't, what happened was South Korea was playing attack against Denmark or something like that. Who knows? And their Reinhardt was dead, and they knew. Oh wait, was it? No, it was Diva Bomb, I think, not Shatter. But they all stacked up as soon as the Diva Bomb came up to the wall. They stacked to one wall on point C. All the way towards the end, and Zarya popped bubble right in front of everybody because everybody was stacked up behind the Zarya, and everybody lived because Zarya bubble was amazing and everybody was behind it. The point of that is that Zarya bubble can only protect the people who are behind it. So while it causes some distress to the enemy team in terms of like, oh, I'm feeding the Zarya energy, maybe I don't want to shoot her, it also can protect the people behind it. It's an LOS blocker basically, and you need to treat it like the shield it is sometimes. More than you actually do. Like everybody groups behind Rhine shield because it's Rhine shield. It's a big obvious shield. But Zarya bubble is still a form of a shield. It's just a less viable shield. Jesus, my throat's going again. All right, let's see how far you get this time. Rhine's already near half. Starts to get a little hesitant, scared. Gets healed up. Scared, gets healed up. Goes in. Doomfist gets impatient, goes in, cleaves some damage, Shatter. You didn't really get too far, you didn't really go anywhere. You would spend all that time tiptoeing back and forth to do nothing. If the tiptoeing had a purpose, I'd be like, oh, that's great, keep tiptoeing. But the tiptoeing has no purpose. It's literally just fear. You have to just go. because your supports will be there for when you get low, and they'll learn as you go through and as you use your aggression properly how to heal you through that aggression. But if you're gonna play scared like this, then your supports are just only gonna do what they can. They're only gonna play with what they know. Bubble plus Brig Shield on 3rd point King's Row. Yeah. It was awesome to watch. Just so you know, the LT button rewinds the footage. You know, I was happy with you a second ago until you just said that. This was a little bit better because you closed a little bit of a distance before going in. Zarya grab comes out. Beat comes out. Not terrible. A little bit of an overcommit so early into the fight, but definitely not the worst thing I've seen so far. But everybody kind of just, I guess, goes all over the place. I'm not going to look at that too closely right now. I want you to get the pathing first. I want you to understand. And I'm also running out of time because, like I said, I need to go make rice. Let's watch this on 1.5. Does anybody have any questions in the chat or anything? I see a few people are kind of just like lurking. Graxons is saying stuff, but I know there's 2 of you out there, at least. I hope that if you have any questions on the VOD, that you'll DM me, or at me, or ping me, or whatever. Still scared, still tiptoeing around, not committing, not using those Zarya bubbles to gain space, but then eventually, frustration charges come through, big sleeps, coalescence, big ults come through, the shield's not there, nothing can stop it, damage comes through. Alright, we go again. We got a minute 42 now. We're getting a little bit desperate. Everybody's spirits kind of got down at this point. You could hear it in their tones and the way that everybody was kind of maneuvering around. But this is a new take. Let's see where this goes. Okay. It's going to get you to the... I think this was the point where I chipped in and said you can't just keep going head on. So I don't know if this was a result of me saying that or a result of, like, you already kind of knew that you had to do something different. But the first 2 pushes were just down main. The 3rd push came from up top, but basically just came down main. The 4th push went back down main again and resulted in a charge. And all of those pushes were just you pushing straight towards the enemy team and saying, my shield or your shield is going to break first. We'll find out which. So this one was kind of like a little bit different. You went pathing that didn't use your resources and let you get to point. And I'm pretty sure this is the one you wind up winning because... now that you're at point, you have a little bit more of a foothold in terms of, like, oof, excuse me, don't drink Coke and stream. You have a little bit more foothold in terms of, god damn it. You have a little bit more foothold in terms of, like, now you're at the point and now you're close to the enemies and now half of your roster can get real value because Ryan Zarya can't get value until up close. And Genji / Tracer is kind of dependent on the rest of your team being in the midst of the fight and then them kind of like skirting around the edges and trimming the hedges of the enemy team. So you wind up getting that.
2-2.
And that's all that I'm going to say for this right now, which is still an hour. Fuck you, Grayson. It's still an hour worth of a VOD review. I mean, technically it's only 45 minutes because I spent the first like 10-15 minutes getting kind of like set up and such, but really focusing on, I wonder if there's an annoying noise. I can't tell, my headphones aren't making noise at this point. But really paying attention to the pathing can save you a lot of energy, resources, and like mechanical demands in a lot of ways. So we'll go through this map again on Monday. I'll do it like I'm gonna do it in a custom game. Everybody can hop in, whoever's available to hop in. We can go to... Oh, fucking hell, excuse me. No Coke next stream, I promise. We can kind of like go through the map as a whole and walk through the pathing, ask questions, talk about things, kind of make things a little bit more customized to what all of you play and what you feel comfortable with, because pushing with like an Orvista Sigma is pushing different than pushing with like a Reinhardt Roadhog or something stupid, or like a Reinhardt Zarya even can be different, or like a Winston Diva is different, you know. So with whatever you guys feel comfortable with, we'll go over it. Nocturnal. I'm excited about learning pathing together as a team. Yeah, I find that often that's the most fun part, especially in the lower elos, because it does a lot to improve the team cohesion, and it's not a band-aid really. It is the fundamentals of learning the game, but it's one of the easier things that most people don't learn, but they should, because it's important. Graxons, I just go pew pew, man. Yeah, you go pew pew really well, you know? I'm not saying you go pew pew bad. I'm just saying you should pew pew while the rest of your team also pew pews, but like from better space. Shut up. I'm the coach. Go away. So yeah, I'm gonna head off. I'll see you guys maybe later. But brain, that's so big. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. I might do another one of these tonight, but if I don't, you might see one tomorrow, because I should have time tomorrow. For now, deuces.